Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to share 5 productivity tips that I find really helpful, especially at times like this where we are stuck at home, pretty much doing nothing with all this social distancing stuff going on. At least for me, I want to be productive, I want to get stuff done, rather than just kind of sit at home and watch Netflix, even though that's quite fun as well. So anyway, 5 productivity tips coming up that I find helpful. So let's dive into it with tip number 1. All right, so tip number 1 is what I call the 1-year rule. And the 1-year rule is asking ourselves the question that in 1 year's time, what will I regret not starting today? And I think this is really good because when we're deciding what to do, especially at a time like this, social distancing and stuff, where we're all gonna be stuck indoors for a long period of time, I think it's really helpful to think about doing a service to our future selves. And I find that, like, if I ask myself the 1-year rule, the 1-year question, then I can sort of bring loads of things to mind. Like, you know, a year from now, I wish I were better at piano, better at guitar. I wish I'd taken singing more seriously. I wish I'd learned to sight read music, which is sort of what I'm doing in music theory and stuff. I wish I'd just had like book reviews on my website. I wish I'd started this aspect of my videos, that aspect of my videos. I wish I'd done that thing. I wish I'd been going to the gym more seriously. I wish I'd been taking my posture and stretching and stuff more seriously. There's all sorts of things that I know a year from now, I will regret not starting today. And I find that really helps in terms of helping me figure out what to actually do with my time. So for example, in my 3rd year of med school, I was studying psychology and I had a load of spare time on my hands. And part of me was tempted to restart playing World of Warcraft. But then I asked myself, you know, what would my future self want? And I happened to have a piano in my room. And so that was the time where I first taught myself how to play the piano by following YouTube tutorials and stuff. And now piano is one of the best things in my life. And I post songs on Instagram about me singing songs and playing on the piano and things. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't thought about the 1-year rule back when I had gallons of free time in my 3rd year of med school. So if you're at home, social distancing, whatever you're doing at home, maybe consider asking yourself the question that in a year's time, what will I regret not doing today, not starting today and doing consistently? And I think that is a good tip to help us guide the direction that we should be heading. So that's tip number 1, let's move on. All right, so tip number 2 is the daily highlight. Now, this was a tip I picked up from this book, Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky, which I'll be doing a proper video about in due course. But essentially, one of the key insights from this book is that every day we should have a single highlight, like the one thing that we're gonna focus on for the day. So for me, the highlight of today is to film this productivity tips video. The highlight for yesterday was to figure out like a website re-architecture for my personal website. But essentially it's like the one thing that I wanna get done today to make today a win. And the way I write it out is that every morning I sort of write an analog list in my Leuchtturm 1917 notebook. And I have like 3 sections. I have H, G, and L. So the H is what's my daily highlight. So today, film productivity video. The G is something that I'm grateful for, and I've written having something to do during social distancing. And the L is something to let go of, and I want to let go of fear, which is just something that's been floating around in my mind because I watched loads of Yes Theory videos this morning, all about embracing discomfort and leaning into the fear of doing stuff. And I've certainly got a lot of fear about doing certain things that might be a bit rogue, and so I want to kind of let go of that. But essentially, yeah, most important thing, having a daily highlight, having a single thing that you're going to focus on for the day. And I find that to be a really helpful way to guide my, sort of point myself in the right direction, and then I can start kind of pouring fuel on the productivity thing. But once I know what direction I'm pointing, everything kind of falls into place. And that's what I get from the daily highlight. So thanks guys for that, and I'll see you in the next tip. All right, so for tip number 4, once we have figured out what a daily highlight's going to be, we should write a to-do list of everything else that we want to get done in that day. So for example, this morning, I sat on this desk with my cup of coffee, which is now very cold and still very grim. Oh God, that's terrible. I'm so bad at making coffee. Anyway, this morning I sat down after doing my highlight, the thing I'm grateful for and the thing I want to let go of. I wrote down a whole list of things to do. So day in the life vlog, which is currently what I'm filming, call Nani, who's my grandma, fiction video script that I need to look over, Guy day in the life video voiceover. But yeah, essentially, I think it's really helpful to have this kind of list of to-dos so that in the back of my mind, it sort of adds this slight element of me knowing I have more stuff to get done, which means I'm more likely to kind of get my current thing, my main highlight for the day, this video, done quickly because I know I need to tackle all these other things on my to-do list. And the other way of thinking of it is that I think one way of thinking about a to-do list is thinking about it as sort of stuff that's weighing you down. But the other way of thinking of a to-do list is thinking of it as obstacles in your path that you're going to power through. And the way I like to think of it, which I got from a friend of mine, Seb, who is on the rugby team and likes these sports analogies, and I can then pretend to be some sort of sportsman, is that it's better to think about it as a series of things that you're gonna bash and sort of get done. So I'm gonna bash through this, and this. And I feel really good at the start of the day when I sort of brain dump and empty my mind onto the page. I call it my morning dump, actually. This is the morning dump to-do list. That could be what tip number 3 is. Anyway, the morning dump, empty my mind and like literally write down everything that I might need to get done. So what I'd recommend for you is that if you're struggling with being productive during social distancing or isolation or quarantine or whatever, even just in day-to-day life, whenever this virus thing blows over, fingers crossed, hopefully. If you're struggling to be productive, I think I was just writing out a long list of things that you want to get done that day and then just kind of tackling them as if you're like a rugby player, like running into someone. That's a good way of thinking about it. But doing this in the morning, this morning dump, gives me kind of clarity on what I need to do. Yeah, basically, moral of the story is to-do list, writing down everything that you need to do in a given day. And I'm a fan of using apps for absolutely everything, but there's just something nice about doing the morning dump on the Leuchtturm 1917 analog notebook with the Uniball Air pen. Where did it go? Oh, this is my new favorite series of pens. I talk about this in my latest monthly favorites video. But yeah, it's really good. Anyway, that was tip number 3. Let's move on. All right, so tip number 4 is called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law states that work expands to fill the time that we allocate to it. So basically, the more time we give ourselves to do something, the more time the thing will take. If we give ourselves less time to do the stuff we need to get done, it will get done in that time. And we've all experienced this, like the night before a deadline, the night before an essay or an assignment is due or whatever, we just get it done. Whereas if we know it's due 3 months from now, then we'll just procrastinate, we'll put it off, we'll do all this research that we don't really need to do, and probably it'll be no better than it was if we just did it like a few nights before. And I really found this, which is partly why I like having this whole long to-do list of everything, because if the only thing I wanted to do today is just film this video, I would inevitably procrastinate all day and end up doing absolutely everything, and then at 8 PM I would be like, oh, okay, I need to get around to filming this video. But because I've got so many other things on my to-do list, which I've basically kind of just manufactured up this morning when I was like, you know, what are all the things I could potentially get done today? Even if I'm not gonna get all of them done, which I probably won't because there's quite a lot on the list, that just means that in my mind, like subconsciously and consciously, I am trying to get stuff done efficiently, which means I can be more productive because productivity is doing the things we want to do as efficiently as possible so we can act in service to our future selves and have fun while we're doing it. I think that's a pretty good definition, actually. Anyway, Parkinson's Law, we should always keep that in mind. Yeah, that was tip number 4. Let's move on. And tip number 5 is for finding ways to get out of a slump. We all have those moments when we're kind of bashing through our to-do list, we're treating it as like obstacles we're going to tackle out of the way, but when it comes to sort of roundabout, like I find that for me, it's sort of an hour, like half an hour to an hour after lunch, that's when I feel a real slump. I'm like, oh, I just want to stop doing the thing. Or kind of in the evening around 7, 8 PM time, even though I've still got loads of stuff to do. So there are a few different things that we can do to get out of that slump. The first one is coffee. So I drink a lot of coffee in the mornings, but I try to avoid coffee after like 2, 3 PM because there's some evidence that caffeine stays in your bloodstream for about 9 hours. And that means if I have caffeine after 3 PM, my quality of sleep is gonna get reduced. So coffee before 3 PM. I also find that making peppermint tea actually helps me get me out of a slump because peppermint tea is naturally caffeine free. And so even if it's like 7 PM and I know I need to do like a final wind to get some work done, then I'll make some peppermint tea, not worry about the caffeine side of it because it's caffeine free, and that'll help me get out of a slump. Another thing you can do is do a quick workout. So I've got some gym supplies on the balcony that I'm gonna be working out with today because going to the gym is a terrible idea during social distancing and isolation and all that stuff. So I also find it really hard to not touch my face, but hopefully everything else will be all right. Either going to the gym, doing a workout, even just kind of going for a walk around the park. That's one of Thomas Frank's favorite techniques. Like every time he's in a slump, he just kind of goes for a walk. Or the final thing you can do that I actually do a lot is like genuinely do an online course on Brilliant, who are kindly sponsoring this video. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsoring this video, because even in day of the life videos that are not sponsored by Brilliant, I still sometimes go on Brilliant and do an online course. But if you haven't heard, Brilliant is a fantastic online platform that has courses on maths, science, and computer science. And the great thing about those is that they're very interactive. It's not just didactic teaching. It's not like watching a lecture. It's like reading a little bit, watching a bit of a video, seeing an animation, and then they ask you a question that puts everything into perspective, and that lets you actually work your own mind. So a few days ago, I had like this whole day in the life thing. I was filming stuff, and it got to about like 10 PM where I still had loads of stuff to do. But instead, I sat down and I did an Introduction to Neural Networks course on Brilliant. And I actually spent like 20 minutes, half an hour just doing this online course because it was so interesting and engaging, and I was finding out about this neural network stuff, which I've always sort of been interested in, because I know, like, especially in medicine, there's all this kind of neural network, AI, machine learning stuff that's applied to image recognition, image analysis for things like chest x-rays, CT scans and ECGs and various sorts of imaging. But this was a really sort of accessible and engaging introduction to how image analysis works on that front. And I just found myself just actually spending absolutely ages just kind of going through it. And then half an hour later, by the time I'd kind of finished the first few lessons in this course and done the daily challenge, this is another good feature from Brilliant that you can check out. By the time I'd done that, I felt like my whole brain was rejuvenated. And so, again, not just saying that because they're sponsoring this video, but they are, so thanks Brilliant for sponsoring this video. If you want to exercise your brain with courses on math, science, and computer science, there is no time like the present, no time like now to learn some new skills, learn something interesting. Go to brilliant.org/Ali, and the first 200 people to click that link will get 20% off an annual premium subscription. So thanks again, guys, for sponsoring this video. And yeah, that's kind of brings me to the end of what I want to talk about. We've talked about 5 tips of productivity. We've said, number 1, 1 year rule. Like, in 1 year's time, what will I regret not starting today and doing consistently? Number 2, the power of the daily highlight from that book, Make Time. Point number 3, writing out a to-do list and treating it as a sort of bashing through multiple things in a given day. Number 4, Parkinson's law, bearing in mind that work expands to fill the time that we allocate to it, so we should limit our time allocated to certain tasks in order to get them done. And point number 5, finding ways to get out of a slump. So I'm about to do a workout at the gym because I feel in a bit of a slump right now. Drink some peppermint tea if it's after 3 p.m. Drink some coffee if it's before 3 p.m. because there's loads of evidence that coffee improves like brain stimulation and stuff. Do an online course on brilliant.org if you fancy exercising your mind. So yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, I have another one which is called How I Manage My Time as a Doctor and YouTuber, and that has like 8 different time management tips. We talk about Parkinson's law, but I think everything else is 7 other tips that are not mentioned in this video. So you should definitely check that out. That'll be linked over here. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.